So here in our glute bridge, obviously the goal is to squeeze, drive your hips up. Be mindful not to arch your back, but rather to keep your back nice and relaxed and just focus on the glute engagement and glute squeeze to drive the hips up, right? So height is secondary. You don't need to go very high at all to really get a fantastic amount of glute engagement. But what we're also going to do is take your block or your roller, and we're going to squeeze here between the knees, and as we're driving up with the hips, we're driving in to the block or to the roller to the point when you're at the top, you're getting like as much glute squeeze and adductor squeeze as possible. So let's just hold the top there for a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 count. And let's bridge up again. Squeeze and raise for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll try that one more time. Squeeze and raise. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, guys. Everybody familiar with the glute bridge, right? Squeeze, glute bridge. So from here, we're gonna work one side at a time, and we're still gonna work that squeeze idea, but we're gonna do it without any implement. So here's the idea. You're gonna take your floating foot and you're gonna press the arch against the inside of the working knee. Does that make sense? So you still got that same squeeze, only now you're here in this kind of position, and now you're gonna bridge up and hold, squeeze and push. Okay, so bridge up here. We'll hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So if you're feeling here, the adductors on both legs are really working, just in a different way. Okay, so again, maximize the squeeze. 2 more times on this side. Arch against the inside of the knee, bridge up and holds. Again, getting in touch with the glute engagement versus your back position, and relax. And we'll do one more time on this side. Squeeze in and raise. Really tuck that knee in to the midline of the body for 3, 2, and 1. Nice. And other side. Arch raises up, inside of the knee, and up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 more times. Press in and raise. 4, 3, 2, 1. And one more time. Bridge and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice work, y'all. So those are 2 of like my favorite glute bridge variations. Both feet on the ground, squeezing into a block, one leg at a time. Still just using your free side to squeeze in, okay? So, now we're gonna take our block and we're gonna work a little hip rotation. So we're gonna do 1 round in a seated position, and then we're gonna do a round in a lying position. I'll show you the difference here. So, let's just do this together. We'll take our block. This is a little awkward with this guy. Nah, I'm good. Maybe for posterity. Ha! Real fast. Thank you. Good call, Ben. And you know, Chris, if I ever am doing something that looks absolutely ridiculous, you can tell me to do it over again. I would appreciate that, actually. So, from a seated position, we're gonna bring our knees in, toes up, heels down. We're gonna take our block and squeeze here between the knees. You can bring your hands back to kind of brace yourself here. So getting those knees in nice and close to the torso here. We're gonna work our hip rotation here one side at a time. So keeping your tailbone down, we're gonna squeeze hard into the block, ramping up tension. So think hard, harder, hardest, squeezing into the block. Maintaining that squeeze, nice and easy. We're gonna raise the right heel, keep the squeeze. Now you're gonna kick that right heel off to the right as far as you can while maintaining pressure into the block. For 5, 4, 3, 2, bring it back to center, but don't relax yet. Toes up and down. Now we're gonna do that on the other side. So again, as you're squeezing into the block, you wanna think about a dial, ramping up tension. So, we'll squeeze think about it like 20%, 60, 70, toes up, heels down, 80, 90, oh my goodness. 100% effort there into the block. And this should be obviously very hard. Float the left, kick out to the left as far as you can, maintain that 100% squeeze. Like you're breaking the block. For 5, 4, 3, 2, back to center, 3, 2, and 1. Make sense? Got the knees going this way, the ankles going that way, which creates that rotation deep in the hip. Very fun, right? Yeah. So now we can do that with both hips at the same time, simply by lying back. So I'll demonstrate real quick. 90 degrees, tucking in. Make sure the feet don't collapse. Keep them up parallel to the ground. We're gonna do that same idea. You're gonna squeeze in, and then you're gonna kick both feet out at the same time. Okay? So I'll cue you through this. So we'll lay on back. And ramp up the tension. Squeezing the knees. Thank you. Ramp up 30%, 40, 50, 60% squeeze, 70, 80%, 90%, and give me a little extra effort. And then kick those heels out to the side as far as you can. Great. Yeah, don't forget to breathe. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feet down, keep the block there in the knees, and let's knock out 10 quick glute bridges, squeezing the knees. And then once you hit that 10, we're gonna do that rotation just one more time. So, tuck the knees in, ramp up that tension, you know the drill, all the way up to 100% effort. And then as you're ready, nice and slow, kick those heels out to the side. Focus on the hip, focus on the core, focus on your breathing. Take a big inhale, and on this exhale, try to get an extra inch out to the side for 3, 2, and 1. All right.
All right.
You guys are familiar with dead bugs? Opposite arm, opposite leg. So what we're going to do is a variation on the dead bug, wherein we're going to use the block, which actually you don't even necessarily need to use the block here, but that's how I'm going to demonstrate it. Where we're going to block one side and the other side is going to work those extensions out. So instead of being a cross body pattern, it's a same side body pattern. So on one side, you're going to block in one straight line, shin, heel, block, elbow. Squeeze it in tight here. The knee is driving this way, elbow is driving that way. Just like how we were talking about yesterday, everything's meeting in the middle. If you don't want to use the block, that's totally fine. You can just use your hand. Resist the urge to let this foot drop. Keep it parallel, keep that shin parallel to the ground. Got it?
Got it.
All right, let's do it. We're gonna work about 20 seconds on each side. Set on up, find that tension, and hit it. Don't forget to breathe, relax your head. All right, let's try the other side. Tighten up, and hit it. Extend out, keep that breath. You've got a lot of things you can focus on here. If you start to feel like you're losing that tension, push extra hard into the knee. Drive the knee extra hard back into the upper body. We got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. That's done. Okay, we're gonna come up into a deep lunge. Now, you can keep your back knee down, or you can keep it up. Either one's totally fine. We're just getting a nice long passive stretch here on this extended side, but we're gonna work an isometric innie and outie on our front side here. So, what you're gonna do is hug the outside of your knee here, like with a braced arm. Now from this position, we're going to isometrically push the knee out against the arm as the arm isometrically pulls in against the knee. Does that make sense? And we're just gonna hold that tension. So it's like an isometric like arm wrestling match between your arm and your hip and knee there. Keep that breath nice and even for 5, 4, big push, 3, 2, and 1. Now we're gonna do the opposite. So now we're gonna take the elbow, block the inside of the knee, so the knee's gonna be squeezing in as the elbow pushes out. Got it? So block and squeeze. Think about pushing a little extra hard with the arm, squeezing a little extra hard with the hip and the leg. For 5, 4, keep the glutes tight, 3, 2, and 1. Make sense? So we're essentially doing this, and we're doing this isometrically. And so this is going to translate, I should say, into some of our squat cues as it relates to like knee tracking and all this other good stuff. All right, so let's try that on the other side.
It feels nice.
Good. That's the idea. All right, so hug the outside and push. Use that strong lat to pull the knee in. For 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then the opposite. Elbow blocks inside of knee and squeeze in as the arm pushes out. Good, strong push. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, y'all. Any questions so far? Everybody's hips feeling good? Everything's popping, cracking, not feeling good? Just let me know. Okay, from here, we're gonna do a 90-90 switch. You guys are familiar with the 90-90 or shin box position? It's one shin in front, the other shin off to the side. So from here, we're gonna kind of lean forward into like a little bit of like a pigeon type stretch. Okay, like stretching out that side of that front hip there. Then from here, using as little upper body support as you can put your hands down if you need to. If you don't need to, keep them up. We're going to pivot and switch, moving the feet as little as possible from their position till we flip to the other side. Once we flip to this side, we're gonna stretch over this front knee into this pigeon type pose. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we're gonna pop back over. And for the next 30 seconds, if you just wanna do this dynamically back and forth, you can. If you wanna hold a stretch longer, you can. Whatever you so choose. Just getting in touch with all those hip rotating patterns. Nice strong lower abdominals. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, from here we're gonna do the QL walk, or the butt walk. Ben, you ever do these?
Yeah, we have before, not for a while though.
Okay, so the QL, very important for squats and deadlifts. These little muscles right here on your low back that don't get a lot of love. So this is kind of a ridiculous looking exercise, but from a tall seated position, we're just gonna scooch on your hindquarters, forward and backward, all right, the length of your mat. Really thinking about using your abs and your low back to rotate cheek to cheek as you're traveling in these little steps, forwards and backwards. Really warming up the hip flexor, low abs, core, obliques, lower back. Just be here for about 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, y'all. Let's get into some proper squats. Let's take our weight, our kettlebell there. We're gonna hit just a few sets of goblet squats. And then Ben's gonna lead us through some double kettlebell front squat stuff. And then we're gonna hit a barbell. So, let's just hit these goblet squats here first, and then we'll snag our appropriate weights for doubles. So here we're going to do these goblet squats a little bit slower. Can I snag one real fast? Take this one. This one. Okay. So we've talked about squeezing in. Something else that's very, very important is to think about the active negative. So in the case of the squat, rather than letting gravity passively pull you down, what you want to be thinking about is actively pulling yourself down into the squat, almost as if you were doing like a knee raise. Okay? So from a patterning standpoint, this and this are the same. So when we use this idea into the squat, we're just going to be able to get more out of every rep. And it's a little hard to explain, but just by virtue of doing all these high knee raises that we've kind of been doing since the start of yesterday, that's what we've been working on. This active hip flexion, actively bringing the knee up towards the chest. So when we grab kettlebell and we start coming down, I want you to think about initiating the squat with a pull down and then launching yourself up. Okay? That's the intention I want you to keep. So let's grab a hold of your kettlebell. Let's knock out 5 reps. Pull yourself down. Once you hit your appropriate depth, launch yourself up. 5 there at your own pace.
Really makes you the adductors, G-men, I feel everything. When I think about pulling the knees up, I feel like I'm getting a lot more.
That's the idea. So again, you can also imagine here squeezing a big imaginary block between your knees as you're coming down. A popular squat cue is to push knees out, and I think that's appropriate in some contexts. But I think it's also important to explore the opposite, which is isometrically bringing the knees in. That's kind of contradictory terms because the knees aren't moving. But that isometric engagement of the adductors, just like how we were doing there with that deep lunge position. So this time with your squat, that's what I want you to think about. In addition to pulling yourself down, I also want you to think about squeezing a big imaginary ball here between the knees. Okay? Same thing, 5 reps.
Both on the way down and the way up, squeezing?
Yes. Yep. Mostly on the way down. But yeah, experiment. So now what I want you to think about, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what I really meant to say was we're gonna do the squeeze in on the way down and the driving out on your way up. So again, from the outside observer, your squat doesn't necessarily look any different. But what's going on in here and what's going on in here, you should feel it. So again, on the way down, I'm thinking about squeezing the knees in against the imaginary ball. And on my way up, I'm pressing out against, an imaginary wall. Make sense? So same thing, 5 reps. Squeeze in on the way down, push out on the way up. believe it. All right, y'all. So some of that stuff is a little hard to translate, but I hope you're kind of seeing through a lot of this stuff that we're not just lifting against gravity. It's, you know, as kind of weird as that seems. I mean, technically, of course we are, but we're also kind of artificially creating other lines of resistance that we can work against to get more out of every repetition, get more out of every set, out of every exercise, but also to, you know, theoretically help fill some of these strength gaps that my guess is over the course of time will help prevent asymmetries, nagging injuries, things like this. And if you are having any movement issues, maybe these are some strategies that you will find can help expedite your process in the direction of where you want to go. Because if all we're thinking about is gravity is this way, or, you know, if we're only thinking in singular straight lines, we're honestly not even respecting the what's that Thomas Myers term? Tensegrity? Something like that. Well, all that to say that there are various lines of tension that you can use as resistance and to a great training effect. So it's hard to explain, but when you feel it, you feel it. So this stuff might take a little bit of practice, but this can be applied to like just about any sort of exercise. So we got into that a little bit, you know, yesterday, and a lot of this applies big time to your squat as well. So with that, Ben, let's hit it.
So one of the things that I wanted to bounce off of there is that what Zach is really talking about is force production, right? And we need to have stability before we can create force. That's just generally how our bodies work. Aside from like survival instinct times, and they'll just override and jump to that next level because survival is the most important. So when we're generating those forces, what we're doing is not only lighting up a lot of different muscles, we're creating that stable base for maximal force production. Does that make sense? Cool. Yes. Y'all need another coffee break? So that's what that feeling is. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but it does help not only prevent injury, but strengthen you to the point of that resilient piece, right? When something unexpected happens, your body now has the mechanisms to go the routes that are the most effective without getting hurt. So it's really important stuff, and I'm just gonna apply this to our classes. If I see you doing this stuff during class, that's great. Like if you're doing your squats and it doesn't feel right and you do a couple of these drills, please, by all means, do that. You know I like when you modify things or do the things for you. That's why you're here this weekend, is to find what works for you. So never feel like you have to do just what I have. Add this stuff. This is your knowledge now that you can apply for your body. Okay. Any questions on that stuff so far before we jump into doubles and then barbell? Cool. How many people here have used double kettlebells for squats? Okay, awesome. So we're gonna spend a little bit of intentional time on it. They're a great primer. Goblets and double kettlebell front squats are a great primer for barbell squats because they really help us in a relatively comfortable position get used to having a load out front and having to brace against that, which is of course important as well when we have a load on our back. So what I think we may have to have a couple of people share bells, but we'll see. What I'd like you to do is go grab 2 kettlebells that you can easily do double front squats with for like 8 to 10 reps. If you don't know what that is, grab 2 kettlebells that add up to what you can easily goblet squat for 8 to 10 reps. Okay? Go ahead and grab those quick, come on back out. If you need to partner up, go for it. One thing I want to point out is that there are different ways to start. One is having the bell handles in a V toward you. One is straight line, one is a V away from you. As far as I'm concerned, as long as you're able to keep everything controlled, meaning your shoulders, your upper back, everything locked in, It's a matter of choice. I know some people, woo! That was awesome. I know some people, woo! Here we go.
Nice.
I'm gonna give it a minute.
Go for it. Everyone's secure.
Oh, I won't need them, but thank you. Yeah, lock your shit down, people. There are some plates in there if you want to put them on stuff. That helps too. That was funny. Okay, so there are benefits to each way. I prefer to have the bell handles toward me just a little bit. That's how I've learned, how I've always done it. I find that the height then kind of stays the exact way that it normally will. Now, you won't need your mats right now, by the way, either, but with your double bells, it's the same setup as a single bell, only you're generally a little bit wider with your feet because we need clearance. So, nice and strong. I like to grab toward the insides, pull everything back, that wedge, clean right up to our top position here, okay? At that point, figure out where you want to squat from. Most people don't squat from here, okay? You can, but that's not that easy. So most people will find their spot. Notice as I do this, I'm standing tall. Remember that super muscle idea? Squeezing everything down and in. Okay, you've heard me say during class, tight is light. Squeeze, okay? Also notice my knuckles are together. For me, that works great. If you want to let them drift apart a little bit, I don't mind that. Make sure though, as you are, you're not winging it out, okay? We don't want to be here. We want to be here or somewhere in this variation, and we're not outside. I've never seen anyone do that for obvious reasons, okay? We want to stay close. So again, we're here, nice and tall, step in, squeeze, pack my abs, and then I pull myself down and drive back up. Now, as I do that, I'm focusing here. Remember that balloon thing? Pushing out. We can talk a little bit about bracing quick, because I want you to do your best to feel some tension through here. It may not be a burn, it may not even be that much tension. It might just feel like mass, or you might feel bigger, might feel more stable. There's a lot of different feelings that can come with this. One of the ways that I like to check on it is to physically push my fingers into my ab wall and push them out. Not with my breath, with my abs. Okay? If you're comfortable doing that, go ahead and try it. Push in, push them out. Right down by my belt line, belly button between there and hip, push. Okay? Sometimes I do it too hard and it makes me feel like I have to throw up. Definitely didn't just do that. Okay? You can do it to your sides. Push them out. Notice there may be a discrepancy from one to the other. Okay? I like to do this behind as well, down by that belt line. Down here I use the back of my hands. Push it out. Okay? That's a harder one to get. My right one does not like to do it. My left one's like, sure, no problem. I have some twisting happens with my squats because of that. You can also just push in and push out, basically in any way you want. That's a nice way to check that brace. Okay, see where it's at. I set it here. I'm pushing out, nice and strong, tall, right? Chin is back, squeeze tight. Now is when we apply what Zach's been talking about. That squeeze in and pull down, and then drive out and squeeze, squeeze on the way up as well. Okay? Remember your feet. All right, we've been talking about hips, 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 glutes, abs. What about feet? Bottoms up. Right? Bottoms all the way up to the top when we do this. Lastly, keep those shoulders low, super muscle tight here. If you're gonna drift out a little bit, that's okay. It's all right to have that happen. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, we'll just do some free practice, anywhere from, we'll say 2 to 5 reps, okay? Rest in between, zip those up, keep them tight, pull yourself down, good power on the way up, abs and glutes, okay? Make that super muscle, get tight. Good, try to stay upright. I'd also like y'all to play a little bit with what you do with your feet. I've said it before, Zach said it as well, squats are very individual, okay? Squats are very individual. Good. couple things I'm seeing. One is we have a tendency to try to create a shelf, like so. Okay? In theory, it sounds like a good idea, but you can also see that raises everything here. We want to stay low, and we want to be down here. We want to try to squeeze that shut as if we've got something to hold on to, right? We're trying to squeeze some folders or something here. I like to think of trying to squeeze, just like deadlifts, squeeze the back of my tricep and my lat together. And pulls everything down and together tight here. Okay, do another set. Do another set. No high elbows. They can drift a little bit, but keep that tension in your lat. That's it, excellent. Good. That's right, try to hold a book underneath your armpit. Yeah, I know it's gonna be tough. And I got something else I'm gonna have you do too. Good. Widen your feet, point your toes out a little. Sit between your heels. Keep those elbows low, crown high, tight abs. Ooh. Does that feel okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Feel a little pinch in my right knee. Yeah.
In your knee?
Yeah.
Good. You can go a little wider too. One other thing I want to bring up as we talk about squats, and you'll hear this a few times, talking about that tension both directions. Just standing here, lock everything in, and then attempt to rip the ground apart a little bit. Feel what happens with your hips and your knees. Okay, tight abs, balloon, pull the ground apart. And you can initiate that way, boom, and then we slowly move down from there. That's one way that we can start to sit back a little bit without initiating with the hips and turning this into like a good morning or a deadlift with something loaded up by our shoulders. Okay? Again, these are all different things to try, to feel, to see what happens. How are we doing? Good. Do 2 more sets of 2 to 5 reps at your own pace. Ask questions, play with foot position. It's going to be different. Sometimes going narrower feels better. Sometimes turning toes out feels better. Sometimes going wider feels better. Regardless, you're opening your hips. You're controlling the descent. Gravity never controls the kettlebell here, folks. Even on swings, when it's coming down, you're still guiding it. Okay, how does this feel?
Good.
Good. They look good. They look better than they have before.
Yeah?
I think that tension is
Yeah.
good. Good. 2 sets. So get 1 done, shake it out a little bit, walk around, loosen those hips up, do it again. Man, you guys came to play today. Everyone's like, let me get a barbell. We do this all the time, let me get a barbell. Good. I'm seeing some good braces on this stuff. Last thing I want to mention, we talk a lot about going as deep as we can all the time, ass to grass all the time, like get down there as deep as you can. I agree with that to an extent. Okay? When we're talking about depth, I want you to go as deep as you can under that control. Okay? I don't you know, people want to go super deep and they're keeping everything nice and stacked. Good balloon, great, good tension. It's when people go dunk and they'll bounce round like this. That doesn't necessarily work so well. And I think people misunderstand a lot of things around butt wink that we don't have to get into today. But that's one of the other factors. So as we're working together, we can kind of watch each other too. And as somebody comes down, 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 maybe they're doing great to right here. I mean, that's a great squat. And then they come a little lower and everything starts to collapse. Sometimes it's just bringing that up. Hey, you know, keep that extension rib cage down. That can really help somebody even get that depth with that, still have that tension. Cool? So keep an eye out for that as we work through today. Anything else, Coach?
I don't think so. Really good squats.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Shall we barbell?
So, again, you know, just like how we were talking about the deadlift and the hinges yesterday,
all of these moves and patterns and lifts exist on a spectrum. So, you know, in the same kind of way that we talked about like the kettlebell swing, it's kind of one end of the hinge spectrum, and you know, heavy barbell deadlift is the other end. In a different sort of way, like your kettlebell front squat is on one end of the squat spectrum from like a heavy barbell back squat. One is relatively light in front, kind of actually there's some distance between like the actual weight and like your torso. Okay, and then we're getting a little bit closer, a little bit heavier with the double front squat. And now we're moving to another implement. We're obviously increasing in weight and we're placing the bar on our back in such a way where we're really taking the, like, not necessarily the grip in the arms out of the equation, but to a much greater degree, what we're focusing on is absorbing the weight completely into the body, completely into the skeleton, right? And that's why this back squat is the position where you can physically squat the most amount of weight. Because you're not having to worry about holding it, you're not having to worry about stabilizing it on the shoulder or supporting the weight with your core, so to speak, but it's more so kind of loading axially through the entire skeleton, right? So because of all of those things, the way that we set up for the back squat is like 90% of the process. You guys all have phenomenal squats. So your squat pattern is there, your mobility, everything looks super duper. We've been talking about some other strategies for increasing tension and different ideas there. So really, when it comes to the back squat, the main thing, my guess is that the only thing that we'll really have to work on is the setup. And that's really just a matter of getting familiar with a lot of these techniques. So, with that, Ben, anything to set up the context for the back squat here?
So one of the themes this weekend is find what works for you, right? Back squats are not ideal for everybody, but they are an absolute staple in what we do, and I know many of you really enjoy these. So when we were talking about what we wanted to do with this was a big piece of it. As Zach mentioned, you guys all are already great squatters. He knew that already, he saw it today. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity to help practice those pieces and then put all of the things from the last 2 days into this exact piece, right? The ability to brace, the ability to keep some things locked in while others move, and all of that comes into a really cool spot with back squats in particular, more so than kettlebells. And like Zach mentioned, 90% of that is the unrack, the setup, the unrack, walkout, all those pieces. So he's going to cue me through those so you can kind of see in real time what's happening. And we'll go from there. Cool? Right.
Might need a platform to be on your level.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Can we see your back?
Do you want me to flip it this way?
You probably should.
Okay.
Just so we can see your back there. So is it as simple as just moving the J-hooks?
Yeah.
Okay. Try that.
Whoa. Oh, you're good.
Is that right?
Oh, boy.
Hey, there we go.
Hey.
All right. Sweet. Is that going to be any way?
Here. Technical difficulties, folks. Give it a moment. We'll just do this.
All right. There. Cool.
Much easier.
Alrighty. So, the main principle in the back squat, it's gonna be different depending on your shoulder mobility, your build, all this stuff. But the main thing that we're going for is just getting as tight as you possibly can under the bar, like where it's actually physically making contact, so here on the upper back, such to the point where you don't even feel the weight. If you feel the bar like digging into you, the weight is either not appropriate or there's some more bracing and technique stuff that needs to happen. So all else being equal, that is what we're going to be focusing on. So in the same way that everybody kind of has their own deadlift setup, I think everybody probably has their own nuanced setup for the barbell back squat. But here's how I like to teach it. So what Ben's going to do is kind of spot his grip on the bar, and he's actually going to start by kind of just tensing up his his triceps here, his lats, and he's just finding his grip. Now, obviously, everybody's grip width is going to be a little bit different, and you're just going to have to experiment with how it actually feels once you dip under. But just by doing this, you can see he's already stiffening up against the bar. And what that's going to allow him to do is pull himself down, up, and under. Oftentimes, if we grab the bar just slack and we try to generate tension from there, it just doesn't translate as well as having that push first. Sounds good? So from here, everybody's position here on the back is going to be a little bit different. I'm cool with just about anything that is obviously not putting pressure on the neck directly. So, the high bar position, the low bar position, everybody likes to, make mountains out of molehills on that stuff. I just say go as deep as what you comfortably can, especially for our purposes. So, this is as deep as Ben can comfortably go. And he got to that position by pulling himself up under. So again, how did he do that? He pulled himself down with his tricep lat super muscle. All right, so he's kind of tight here in the armpit. One of my cues sometimes is I'll stick my finger in here and I'll say, pinch my finger. Ooh, there you go. Or sometimes I'll just say that and I won't actually have to poke you there. So his only mission here is to get tight where the bar is. Remember, that was the main principle. So he's doing that by pulling his shoulder blades together, by kind of flaring his traps up into the bar, and squeezing his elbows kind of down and together. Again, shortening this angle here. And from here, as long as he's doing all that stuff, and now his feet are right up under the bar. You know how we talked about squeezing the weight off the floor with the deadlift? He can almost squeeze himself and stand right up to unrack the bar. And he's doing that by simply driving his hips up under the bar. See, as he's getting set up, his hips are back, and then when he's ready to unrack, he just stands up. So it's almost like a 2-inch deadlift. And then once he's up, he's going to take 1 step, 2 step, square himself up, and that's 90% of it. Now, if he's secure, he's ready to squat, he's going to set the hips simultaneously back and down to the depth of his leisure. He's going to stand up however many reps he wants to do. Again, remember how we were talking about the deadlift? Pause at various ranges of motion to make sure that you're maintaining that tripod balance on the foot. As Ben is coming up, he's holding the bottom, he's coming down, all ranges of motion there. The first thing he must check is how he's balanced on his feet. And as long as that checks out, my guess is the rest of the chain is going to check out as well. To lock out, or I should say to finish the rep, or to finish the set, he's going to lock out, he's going to take 1 big step forward, into the rack, and down. That is the squat in a nutshell. So again, diving under the bar, closing this angle here with the lats, good tall proud chest. Apart from that, when you consider the balance of the feet, that's what's going to help keep front of mind how you're positioning the torso. Because again, now that the weight's back here and not out here, there's going to be a little, whoa, am I tipping forward? Am I tipping back? There's going to be some natural lean forward. If you stand completely straight, the bar's going to fall. So that's another little difference with back squat is you have to be slightly hinged forward. Slightly hinged forward so that you're able to maintain this balance. If you weren't doing that and you were here, you would feel it on your heels. So that's why we always come back to that foot sensation. Questions? Comments? Ben, anything else?
No, I think that last bit that you just mentioned, first of all, generating all that tension, getting stiff before you take the weight of the bar is really important. You want to just kind of pop it, float it. It's the same idea. Making sure you've got tension here. Don't be afraid to allow a little bit more forward lean. I made that mistake for a very, very long time. I expected it to feel like a goblet squat, right? So I tried to stay super, super upright because I can, but more recently I started to go narrower, toes a little more forward, and allow myself to stay more balanced, and that made a huge difference. So keeping, not focusing so much on weight back here, allowing myself to move a little bit more naturally, way more muscle activation, way more engagement, way more balance, more health, more performance. So this is a big win. So play with it. Have enough weight. Well, you can talk about what we're gonna do.
Oh yeah, sure. So again, a lot of the stuff that we went over yesterday applies here. Play around with your foot stance. You can experiment asymmetrical angles with the feet. More narrow, more wide. You're only going to find the sweet spot for your own individual body by experimentation. And obviously do that with a weight that you feel confident controlling, even if it doesn't feel perfect. Okay? So, from here, let's just warm up with the bar. If we're partnered up, let's go I go, you go. 5 to 10 reps with the bar. Partners, provide some feedback, ask questions either to Ben or I or to your neighbors. A quick point about the setup. You're probably going to want to set the J-hooks to somewhere lined up kind of like right below like the shoulder line. You don't want it to be too high. I would rather it be a couple inches too low than just a centimeter too high. Because you do not want to tiptoe out of the rack. You don't want to tiptoe back into the rack. But getting up under the weight and squatting it up a little bit is great for performance, great for safety. So then when you rack the weight, you make contact with the rack and then you drop it. Okay? So be cognizant of where you're setting the J-hook. Obviously, if there's some height differences between you and your partner, you might just want to have a conversation about maybe getting a new partner, or maybe just getting tight with adjusting the J-hook between sets. Cool? So let's just start off with the bar. Let's do 3 to 4 sets per person of 5 to 10 reps, just with the bar. We're gonna get nice and warmed up here. For right now, just worry about not holding your breath. We want you to get comfortable with the bar position, get comfortable with the pattern. And then we'll worry about some of the breathing stuff a little bit later.
You guys use these 2 racks, you can still work together, but different racks. They're gonna go on here. You'll be partners, but you know. I recommend 3 to 5 reps, maybe 2 reps, I think. If you're feeling good, don't be afraid to go kind of heavy. But I'd be careful about big jumps. You got 22 minutes to squat, so don't be.
What's the workout for? Is that going to be a squat thing?
Do some squats.
Okay. So I'm like, I don't know how heavy to go.
Your legs will be. Don't worry. Okay. How's it feel?
Look at my delicate back.
You've got a great squat pattern. I think with the barbell, you could probably even just tip yourself forward a little bit.
Okay.
So that when you sit down, because you've got great mobility. This is what happens with a lot of people who are used to like front squatting kettlebells.
Yeah.
You're very upright,
Okay.
and you know, probably not a huge deal, but you know, ankles are kind of getting a little compressed there. So I think if you just tipped a little bit forward, sat back just a little bit, you'll probably end up a little bit more flat-footed.
Okay.
You almost want to think about the way coming up is simultaneously a squat up and a deadlift forward.
Okay.
But yeah, squat looks great.
Yeah, I could not do that 4 years ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Remember that balloon as you have some weight here.
I know. So it's just like not paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
See how there's a little bit of lean forward? Just a little bit.
You're coming up like I'm still doing that? Yeah, like you're swaying backwards when you come up.
Yeah, just trying not to.
Yeah, that's tricky.
It wasn't that much. I didn't see it until I was trying to do.
That happens with a lot of people. A lot of people have like, you know, an asymmetry with like usually the adductor and the hamstring and glute. It kind of contributes to a little shift. So a lot of single leg work, a lot of those glute bridge, a lot of those hip rotation things. That's a lot of that stuff to kind of help bring stuff together. You know, Greg's got a really great squat. He's got like a high bar position, relatively narrow feet. So he's almost front squatting a back squat. He's able to stay very upright, great mobility, very strong legs. So that's a great squat. Most, you know, I wish I could squat like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's great. So you see, there's really no like right or wrong way. It's just a matter of where your sweet spot is, and everything is interlinked. So depending on where the bar is, that's going to impact your hips, that's going to impact your knees, all the way up and down.
For some people, or if you ever find yourself having trouble getting under it with all your fingers because you're having trouble with this part, if you drop that pinky and lock everything in, sometimes you can turn this even more and lock things in too. So again, it's an example of what works for you. Not a lot of people do that. It's also not that comfortable with the knurling, but not that much weightlifting is. so that can be helpful for some people too, kind of what he's talking about, having that thumb up, dropping the pinky. You can play with that kind of rotation. So ultimately you want to find what's going to engage that the most and have that tension the most and safest. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Woo. All right, guys. So yeah, if anybody wants to learn or go over anything on the front squat, I'd be happy to show you. There's one quick thing that's relatively simple and easy that I like to do. You know, the only tricky thing with the back squat is a lot of times we can start to lose this. We can start to kind of get a little bit too open in the front. So I really like to combine front squat variations with back squats to make sure that I'm equally compact. So if you don't necessarily want to do barbell front squats, or I mean, hey, for that matter, doing a goblet or double rack front squat in between these, it's a fantastic idea. But a very simple thing that you can do, if I may borrow this bar, very simple thing that you can do is just a zombie lockout, wherein the bar is resting like across the top delts, and you're just holding. So that looks like this. The setup looks like this. Actually, maybe too short. See that? Here we are. That's all there is to it. So, again, you can probably imagine what I'm thinking here. What's the first thing I'm thinking? Don't fall over. Where my feet are. The tendency is to want to lean back onto the heels. But I'm not doing that because I can feel it when I'm leaning back on the heels, I'm in my back. If I get midfoot balance, I can feel it equally in my abs and my back, and I don't feel like I'm stressing either. I just feel like they're compact. I'm just breathing. All right, so this is a little bit awkward, but if you find that sweet spot, kind of just at the base of the throat, over top of collarbones, resting on the meat of the delts, this is like a zombie lockout. You can also do a squat from here, which probably not going to demonstrate with 135, but if you wanted to, you could just step out, keeping those arms high. And the tricky thing is that that's like the one squat variation where your hands aren't involved at all. You're not racking weights, you're not holding the goblet, you're not gripping, the bar, you're way out here. So what that forces you to do is to make sure that everything else is online. And that's another great one for thoracic mobility and strength and all that other good stuff. So you can experiment with that a little bit if you want to. But yeah, we'll hit it for about 7-8 more minutes, and then we're gonna hit some fun stuff before lunch.
All right.
Hit it. Or of course you could just do it without a bar in your throat. That's fine too. But yeah, if anybody wants to try the torque stick, by all means. But again, what this helps you to train is that same idea of how you can put intention in different directions than gravity. So that's why I like this one.
Throat-friendly version.
Right. Yeah, give it a shot.
Friendly version.
I think because if you stick to your quad, right? So yeah, bending forward, you get a little bit down the front and then throat. Forward. There didn't seem to be really forward very
It's
well.
like different. The pressure just like it wobbles.
Nice squat.
Very good.
Again.
You like having so
I
much.
think Charles goes to the world record. Next 6 squeeze zombie squat. Colin,
I'm done.
your mask. Thank you. Here, let me get a picture.
Yeah, man. Nice work. Nice work.
This is fun.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I like that's fun.
It's a lot to go through.
Now, it's like I was kind of talking about before. Honestly, you guys are lucky to have access to a yoke bar, safety squat bar, because that thing kind of gives you the sensation of a front squat in your back squat position, and the handles are here. So a lot of all this stuff that we've been talking about kind of happens automatically when you use one of those things, and you don't have to worry about the position of your hands, so to speak. So in the same way with the torque stick, we're squeezing here in front, you could just grab a hold of those handles and squeeze in like so. So you have like these built-in, like easy options for exploring different tensions. So that's a fantastic option, fantastic bar there. So when the opportunity presents itself, do some practice on those, on that bar. Ben, anything else?
You guys are really good squatters.
Yeah, very good.
It's cool to watch.
Yeah, you know, my observation, I think this is common with a lot of people who are hot to trot on kettlebells. Everybody has a relatively high bar back position, which is totally fine. Totally fine. All the principles of engagement and the foot position, again, I sound like a broken record, still apply. It's a little bit hard for me to relate because I come from such a like a powerlifting background. So when I first started squatting, really not too long after I got into kettlebells, I was getting into the super low bar position back squat. So from day one, I've been putting my bar way down here, and that just takes practice. It's not necessarily something that you have to train into, but what most people find is that when you can get the bar lower, it's a little bit easier on your back. The tricky thing is that it does require more of that shoulder mobility. But a lot of things will kind of lock in the lower you can get that bar. But it's not something that you have to do. Just understand that the lower the bar goes, the more it's going to affect all the angles up and down the chain. Okay? So if back squatting is something that you really want to explore, I think that's an area of opportunity for just about everybody to start working on, is shoulder mobility and just different gripping techniques in the interest of getting the bar just a little bit lower. Because if you can get that sucker just below this trap, it's like a whole new world. Because having that thing on top the trap, gosh, for me, it's torturous. It's absolutely torturous. And this is coming from the guy who just choked himself out on the bar, squeezing like a torch stick. So, but I'm a baby about some things. Some other things that we talked about are also like the Zercher squat. That's another great option that Ben is big on. That's where you're holding the bar in the crooks of your elbows there. So it's kind of almost like another version of the goblet squat. But again, you're taking your hands out of the equation, which means that in a way you have the opportunity to focus on other muscle groups without being so concerned about what your hands are doing.
Yeah, Zerchers are really neat too because you can, as some of you have felt, you can push into them. You can push that brace into the actual bar, depending on your leverages, obviously. For some people, they sit kind of high. For some people, they sit low, depending on the length of their upper arm versus the torso. But we've had Zerchers actually like teach people full depth squats with the barbell, which is cool.
Yeah.
Then it translates to back squats too.
Yep.
Just because of the different load.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. So, any questions, points of feedback on your squats? All right, cool. Well, let's get into a little pre-lunch shenanigans. We got the sleds out.
Got the sleds.
Wow.
So,
That's to make more space in here, right?
all this stuff, that we've been talking about the squats, this is like the highly technical stuff. You can also work the daylights out of your legs without all this technical stuff. One of the best ways to do that is just by laying hands on a sled and just pushing that sucker as hard as you can. And that's what we're going to do to work up a little bit of an appetite for lunch. So what we're going to hit is a workout called the Sergey Litvinov workout. If anybody's familiar with Dan John and his workouts, his books, this is an iconic workout. So what we're going to do is, depending on our sled situation, depending on our team situation, the idea is you're going to hit 8 squats. Squats of your choosing. Could be goblet squat, could be double rack front squat. For that matter, if you want to get fancy, bottoms up, front squat here. Probably doing a barbell squat is going to be a little bit too much to go back and forth.
It's too complicated.
But the idea is 8 squats, safely drop your weight, and you're going to push a sled down and back. We might do a little push and drag to work, both angles there. And then your partner's going to go. I go, you go, 8 front squats, push pull. So we're going to set up some equipment. We're maybe going to demo a round or two, and then we're going to hit this sucker hard before lunch. You can use the pec stick and do like a kettlebell loaded thing, or just hold tight. Whatever you want. You can play around. Hey, if you just want to do bodyweight squat, that's fine too. But the idea is that that's a kind of a total body squat grinding idea. You're going to put your weights down, and then you're going to do something fast-ish that's like zero technique to it. You know what I mean? So it's a safe way to push yourself. So one of the reasons I really like sled push, sled drag, tire flips, is that all of these things I call like yard work, they don't include any eccentric load on the body. There's no negative. There's only push. There's only concentric. So that has a really unique stimulus to the body because there's way less muscle damage. So you don't get as sore. You really don't get as, you'll get fatigued, but the thing is, like, if you stop pushing a sled, you can let go and it's not going to fall on you. So there's no load pushing back on you. So once you catch your breath, you're good to keep going all day. That's a really cool conditioning effect of some of these implements, as opposed to of a squat. If you're not careful, like, you're going to get smashed. You're going to get crushed. With sled work, that's not the case. So the only thing that's limiting you from pushing harder is this. So it's an interesting way to kind of get more in touch with what's going on up here when you're working hard, where you don't have to worry about technique, because you can just push or not. But this is a great way to kind of just add a little bit of a new type of dynamic into your strength training. It kind of puts you into an interesting headspace when you're tired, but you know that you can safely keep pushing. I would say you might, well, you're not going to lose your lunch. You might lose your breakfast, but my guess is that just down and back here, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Push yourself, but not too hard, right? Because these squats are going to tire you out. So, I don't know, Ben, you want to do a round?
Yeah, absolutely. One housekeeping thing. That fence right there is not stable. Do not bounce off it. You will fall into the road. Cool.
Has this happened before?
I've had one person bump into it and it was a thing. It was fine. It's fine. Just be mindful.
Are you planning on taking that fence out anyway?
Yeah, is
Yes.
that planted?
But I would like to have a semi-secure lot until that point.
Yeah.
Like, the wind blows hard sometimes and it falls over. So we may see it yet today. But yeah, we'll do. Do we want to do the extra piece to it since we're doing 4-person teams, or what are you thinking? Do you want to do the push-up piece and the resting piece, or do you want to just like, how do you want to do it?
Yes, let's do it as as if, you know, you and me are on the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine we're each two people.
Exactly.
Like
All right.
two people side to side or two people stacked on top?
Cool. So I'll start on my 8 squats, then I'm gonna push, then I'm gonna rest as you go.
Right.
And then the push-up will be,
I'd say you choose.
you choose.
Yeah.
You can hold plank, you can hold bear position, you can do push-ups.
You should warm up. It sounds kind of hard.
Yeah, it's just.
Where does it end?
And then this one's just resting.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, hit it.
Yep.
1, hep, 2, hep, 3, hep, 4, 5, hep, 6,
Synchronized.
hep, 7, hep, 8.
One. Good.
He's resting.
I know.
He had to do the push-ups because he didn't do the push-ups. Well, he hadn't done the push-ups.
And that's one total round.
Okay.
Make sense? All right, so again, choose whatever weight, choose whatever variation of squat you would like. We've got extra plates here. How about this? How about we go for 4 rounds?
Yep.
We'll take a little breather, depending on how everybody's feeling. We might do a little variation with pull, but we'll take it from there. Sounds good? So don't rush, don't lollygag, just have fun. We'll crank up some tunes,
Crank out some tunes.
and away we go.
Nice, Charles.
Big steps,
Good,
big
keep moving,
strides
keep
on
moving,
that
keep
sled. Big strides. Nice, Charles. Great
your mind and your feet.
Does it hurt your
In
wrist?
the squat, in that push. Good, big strides, Aaron, big strides. Use those legs, that's it.
Thanks. Get lower, Charles. There you go.
Great squats.
Do you want us to start the third round?
We're going 4 rounds, right?
4 total rounds.
Woo! Keep it going. Work as a team. If you need a little extra rest, take it. Nice, Greg. Long arm. Good.
There you go, Josh. Nice work.
This work there? Yep.
Good work, guys. Good work.
Like to show you time.
Round 4. 3. 3. I'll start 4. You were first in your group? Good. Who was first over here? Okay, so you're going to start. That's it, Matt.
There you go, man.
Long arm. That's it.
Yeah,
Keep it
push it.
moving. Keep it moving. There you go. Big steps. Drop your dumbbell. Yeah. All right, last round. That's the load as you need. Keep going. Keep it going.
Oh, you're a maniac.
So last round, I'll take it back off. Charles, you're inspiring me. This is your fault.
Oh, you're low. Rest it. Rest it. Yeah, it's not great when you get bunched up,
Yeah.
right? What else? Slow and smooth. Smooth as fast. That's right. That's right. Super muscle. Boom. Right? Also notice this. See what the sled does? Is very different than this. Right? Horse-wise. So some of you guys were getting stuck because you were pushing at the top. It digs the front end. Right? It's interesting to see. Very cool. Anything else?
It was fun.
Some good stuff, isn't it? Cool. Doesn't have to be complicated, does it? No. What else you got?
Well, we had our push-up, which is a push. We had our squat, which is a squat. And we had our sled push, which is a squat and a push together. So that's, you know, when you kind of take a deeper eye and looking at a lot of these patterns, you can kind of see how, again, everything exists like on a spectrum. So we like to label exercises, we like to label, you know, different techniques and whatnot. But at the end of the day, pushing your legs is pushing your legs. Pushing your arms is pushing your arms. Stabilizing through your body, it all goes back and folds into itself, right? So that's kind of how I think Ben and I like to look at training, is let's take the same 4 or 5 ingredients, push, pull, squat, hinge, carry, and how do we manipulate all those variables to come up with a good workout for the day and a good program and method of training for the rest of your life. So some things very technical, other things very not technical. Some things challenge your muscles, other things challenge your heart and lungs. And at the end of the day, having fun is the most important part. So I think that's it. Big 5. You know, we've got gait, squat, hinge, push, pull. All right, so we're just gonna get warmed up and we'll finish the weekend strong here. So, you guys remember that whole teacup sequence? Think everybody's been practicing out here a little bit. So, what you can try is doing both hands at the same time. So, hands out, and we're gonna flip them around and under the armpit. As you hinge forward, we're gonna kick back like you're, you know, flying through the sky. And then you're gonna sweep them forward, rounding, leaning away over your head, and bring them back forward. And then you can do that a little bit faster. A couple of times. Reach up, out, over your head as you lean back, sweep in front of the hips, kick the hips back as you sweep under the armpits. Make sense? And then once you get the pattern, you can speed it up a little bit. And I'll just try one more there. And then we'll get into that Egyptian twist. So, one palm, I want you to reach way out. And then the other hand turns up under, way out in the opposite direction. Driving the thumbs back behind you, palms to the sky, pivot and twist. Man, I love how we're all going the same direction. And pivot and twist. Pivot and twist. Pivot and twist. Twist. Now this time, let's try a wave. I'm going to start, I'm going to pass it to Josh, and you're going to pass it to Aaron. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to pass it back the other way. Beautiful.
That was awesome. That was
Beautiful.
a cool moment to walk out here.
All right, guys, let's take knuckles. We'll make light fists to temples. And we're going to curl, touch elbows here in front, and squeeze, extend out to the side. Turn in, stretching out between the shoulder blades, and out. A couple more times. And out. One more time in. And out. Good. Let's do some of our wrist warm up. Go figure eights. Let's see if we can do figure eights in the opposite direction. It's a little tricky. And then we'll do wristwatch stretch. Folding around. And back the other direction. In case there's any cognitive sluggishness after lunch, let's wake up the brain here a little bit. I want you to point with one finger, give a thumbs up with the other. On the count of 3, you're gonna switch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Switch. 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 And switch. Nice. There's one called Shoot the Bunny. All right, so you have 5 bunnies on your left side. And you have a weapon on your right. Click boom. Now you have 4 bunnies on this side and a gun on the other. Click boom. Now you have 3 bunnies on this side and a gun on the other. Click boom, 2 on this side, a gun on the other. Click boom, 1 bunny on this side, a gun on the other. Click boom, no more bunnies. All right, now that we've all killed a bunch of bunnies, let's go do some pull-ups. All right, so we're going to be learning the pull movement through the lens of the pull-up, or basically pull-up bar work and ring work. So there's obviously lots of different, types of rows. We got barbell rows, we got single arm rows, and we're gonna be working into a little bit of that stuff. But I think really what promotes total body strength, shoulder mobility, just general athletic skill, quicker, faster, easier than just about anything else, is just bar work and ring work. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna be doing a bunch of pull-ups, but we are gonna be doing some pull-up progressions, some modifications, and maybe some fun stuff that you haven't seen before. So the obvious caveat with all this is bar work can be very fatiguing on the grip. So don't blow yourself out of the water, too quick. We're not going to be hanging for much time or anything like that. We're just going to be showing you some different variations of things that you can practice and progress in your training. We're going to be doing lots of modification. Obviously, respect where you're at, your strength levels, especially as it applies to your grip. And yeah, we're just going to have some fun hanging out, monkeying around. Okay? So, Ben, anything else that we need to hit before we crank on into it?
No, I think that the idea here of progression, regression is really important, so keep that in mind. Work your way up to things, try things if you feel comfortable trying them. If not, just really get the most out of whatever level you're at, because they all have a lot of value. So, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so we're going to keep our same partners.
Yeah.
I think,
That's right.
So again, we only have so many places to, you know, hang out. So we're just gonna take this one step at a time. So let's mask up and mosey on in.
Mask up and mosey on in.
Forward, that whole thing. So we're doing the same thing, we're just going up and down and here. If you're really crazy, you can actually do hanging full circles. So you can experiment with that a little bit if you want to, but we're just gonna worry about going straight up and down. So I'm gonna hop up on this bar and demonstrate real quick here. Please note, this is just me personally. I use a tactical grip on just about all my pull-up ball work. So that's the thumbs over. You don't have to do that, you can do thumbs around. I personally find that it's a little bit easier on my grip. That may or may not be your experience. I've just been doing it that way for years, just because that's what we had to do in the Tactical Strength Challenge.
Sure.
So, yeah, super nerdy. So, typically like to take just about a shoulder width grip. A lot of people kind of hop up and they go kind of naturally wide. There's nothing wrong with that, but what I often tend to find is that if I cue people to get a little bit closer, sometimes that also helps get into this exercise a little bit better. Okay, so as you can see right here, I've got lots of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relax the lats, stretch down, so now I'm like the turtle stuck in the shell, and then I'm going to pull right back to where I was. Now, there is going to be a little bit of natural lean back. So you see, I'm not just going straight up, but rather I'm going up and slightly diagonally back. I don't know if you can see that from straight on, but that's a little bit of the idea that we're going for, because when you go to do a full pull-up, there's a little bit of this natural sway back that happens that actually creates space for the pull. You can't really do a pull-up perfectly vertical, or you basically just hit your head on the bar. Doesn't really feel too good, not very practical for how your shoulder moves anyway. So by practicing this scat pull up and slightly diagonally back, you're also going to be practicing that first 5 to 10% of your actual pull-up, and that little angle is really going to make a big difference for getting the full motion. So many folks try to do their pull-up, pulling straight up, as opposed to whoop, getting that natural little curve. So that's what we're going to practice here first. So if you're comfortable and confident hopping up on the bar, try that. Otherwise, what you can try is just that same idea. For that matter, you can just hang onto this bar with your feet flat and do the same thing. Got it? So you can use as much or as little assistance with your feet as you want. Okay? So let's just take a minute to practice that. 5 to 8 of those scat pulls per person. If you need to chalk up, please do so. I go, you go with your partner. Let's do 2 rounds.
And if you need a bench or something to jump up on, go ahead and move them over there. Otherwise, you can climb up on the spotter arms too. It's not going to hurt any. Just be careful.
Yep. We're going to get a little funky with this. So I really would recommend, if your grip is getting a little fatigued here, which it probably should be, by all means use some assistance. Use this station. Use a bench to like set your foot up on. We don't want to blow your grip out too fast here. So now we're going to do 1 scat pull up at a time. This one, you might actually benefit from a slightly wider grip, just to really get a good stretch from side to side. So you can experiment with that. And hopefully you can kind of see, I'm in a sweatshirt, but hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. You know, I'll probably take it off after this one, but. So here, again, we're gonna start loose. I'm gonna pull to one side, loose. Pull to the other side, loose. Guess what I'm thinking about here? Josh? Normally I'd be talking about my feet, but definitely not now. Super muscle, thank you. Come on, bro.
Well, you didn't see me point here as she raised her hand.
I'm thinking about that super muscle. That's exactly what's happening here. I'm pushing with the tricep and I'm pulling with the lat.
So is the side that you're not going up to not activated at all? I mean, other than hold on?
Basically.
Okay.
Yep, it's just providing a little assistance. So, again, for assistance, same idea. Now, you're really probably going to have to resist the tendency to start bending the elbow. A little bend in the elbow is fine, but usually that's how it's wired in our mind. When the super muscle contracts, so does our elbow. So if you find that happening, just be cognizant of it and try to keep that elbow straight. And assisting yourself here will be a big help. So I really want you to get, again, that slight lean back. And honestly, I really want you to feel like you're almost cramping in your lats. That's really the sensation that we're going for. So please use this. Please use a bench if you need to, because this will sneak up on your grip big time. Same thing, let's go I go, you go for 2 rounds. Do, 4 or 6 total. So like two or 3 per side. Just play with it, okay? Let's practice.
Yeah, it feels monkey barish. Yeah.
My very favorite thing, I used to work at a gym that had a line of rings.
Oh.
So you could like
Oh.
swing ring to ring.
Yeah.
Oh, that felt so good.
We had.
You start slack, pull, pull, loose, loose. Pull, pull, loose, loose. Opposite way, and then you've got a circle. Probably bending my elbows a little bit too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, it all exists on this continuum, right? So we're no longer talking about just straight lines, but we're talking about passing that tension in a circular pattern. Let's try that maybe once per person. Because again, we've got a lot of stuff to do and we don't want to fatigue the grip too much. So give it a shot. Give it a circle, maybe one direction. Nice. Good work.
That's how I feel like
Tight, tight, loose, loose. Great. Yeah. Now again, I probably should mention, with all this stuff, you can practice this stuff off the bar. Definitely should have mentioned that before. So again, because it's like, what in the heck is going on? This can kind of pretzel your brain up a little bit, because flexing your lats aren't exactly as easy as flexing your bicep. Eventually, that's the goal, to get that sort of connection there with these lats. But yeah, just here, you can go tight, tight, loose, loose. And just imagine that you're on that bar. I think I'm screwing it up, but you get the idea. For that matter, you can just go. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, if we're talking about really training the shoulder in a holistic way, we can get into different angles. You know, it kind of starts to break down into just, I don't know, it starts to get kind of weird when the farther out you go. But you get the idea. So there's really no limitation in the ranges of motion and the angles, you know, even across. Getting used to stretching and tightening the lat. See what I mean? So, you know, it takes some practice, takes some mental focus, but eventually you'll really get that good mind-muscle connection to those lats. And once you taste it, once you get some traction, you'll really start to see and feel the difference in all of your training. Again, a lot of this stuff has direct impact on your deadlift, all that other good stuff. Okay, so that's the scapular sequence. It's really as simple as that. Up and down, slight push back. Okay? So now we're gonna get into a little flex arm hang. Really just getting comfortable with this isometric flex here at the top. Pretty much recommend that we do this like with a chin-up grip, you know, wrist facing in. And so the intention, the goal that we're going for, again, is thinking about creating the super muscle. So we've been talking about this ad nauseum. Tricep meets lat. You're sandwiching the armpit tight so that these guys sandwich into each other. Now, are you going to be able to hold this chin-up lockout like this? Whew, I know I can't. I try. I'm getting there. But anywhere from like here to like thumbs to chest or thumbs to collarbone, anywhere in there is cool. So again, if this is appropriate, you can hop all the way up. Now I'm not even thinking about my biceps, really. I'm really thinking about making the super muscle. Shoving my elbows down and squeezing my triceps in against my lats flaring out against my triceps. You guys familiar with the hollow body position? Feet slightly forward. Woo! Just took a lot out of me.
That was impressive talking while you were doing it.
That was impressive.
That just took a lot out of me. Now, honestly, what we should be doing is probably just getting here on this bar, setting up like so, and then maybe just tiptoeing the feet out. A little something like that. Experiment there. Let's just do, because this one will really fry you out quick. Let's just do like one quick round, like not long, like 5-10 seconds at the most. And you just tell me how that feels for you. Okay?
Yeah. Feel free to put the barbell into your own rack like this, or even you can use those safety arms too if you want to for this.
I think a really powerful idea as it applies to pull-up training is owning the bottom position and owning the top position. So really, if you're working on your hollow body hangs, all that scapular work, you're going to be, over time, very, very strong, very, very confident here at this bottom position. And honestly, that puts you way ahead of the game. If you can really get this first pull, so to speak, then you're already off to the races. From there, if you get strong and confident there at the top, again, recommend mostly training with an underhand grip. Certainly the overhand is fine as well. Just, again, watch the elbows, because that high tension right there in that joint can be dicey for a lot of us. But all that being said, you get comfortable at the bottom, you get comfortable at the top. Over the course of time, the middle kind of takes care of itself. So a lot of times, people who are close to their first pull-up or close to their like third or fourth, like if you're working on reps, oftentimes you're blowing yourself out of the water by spending too much time in the middle. Too much time here, kind of halfway struggling in this kind of middle part. All right, there's a time and a place for that, for sure. But honestly, the safe thing to do is probably just to spend more time at the bottom, maybe a little bit more time at the top, and working the negative. So again, we're gonna try this once, and if for any reason you don't feel this is appropriate for you, that's totally fine. Because again, this is a kind of a high intensity, high tension drill. So what we're gonna do is hop up into that flex arm hang. If it's appropriate for you, you can try this overhand, that's totally fine. I'm gonna demonstrate underhand, and you're gonna let yourself down slowly. And what I want you to think on your way down is think about like you're purposefully losing a arm wrestling match, if that makes sense. So again, in the same way we pull yourself down into the squat, you're almost pushing yourself down into the bottom of a pull-up. So it's kind of like there's this tug of war going on your humerus, on your upper arm bone, and it's like the tricep is slowly winning over the bicep. That's also how I might recommend that you practice bicep curls. Your bicep is winning over the tricep, your tricep is winning over the bicep. So you actually have an active push and a resisted pull, just doing something as simple as a bicep curl. Woo! Okay, so you got your hollow body position. My neck and my face are relaxed. I'm slowly pushing myself down into the bottom. So think about that. Push yourself into the bottom. Push, push, and if you're pushing yourself slightly back, that's totally cool. Okay? Have fun with it. Again, all of this goes back into where are those lines of tension. So even this push-pull between your bicep and tricep is still in a roundabout way another expression of what we talked about like in the squat with squeezing the knees versus driving the knees out. So this is all kind of shades of the same thing. All right, so we've already covered quite a lot. So really from here, if it's appropriate for you to dive into the full pull-up, I'll just have a couple of things for you to think about, a couple of things for you to practice, and then something that I think would be kind of appropriate for everybody. For your pull-ups, again, this first little bit, this first little scap pull makes all the difference. On your way up, what I would encourage you to do is get up there as fast as you can. You know, don't worry about being like controlled, quote unquote, on the way up, because you can worry about that on the way down. But especially if you're training for reps, you're training for strength, it's probably also a little bit more elbow friendly to not grind the way up. You can grind the way down. You know, the eccentric is a little bit more friendly for that idea. Because oftentimes what happens is, and that's why like if you're getting like really struggling, you're better off just relaxing and modifying your drill, modifying your training, because you're gonna blow up your forearms, your traps are gonna get overactive. You might crick something in your neck. Honestly, the worst neck injuries that I've had have just been from grinding too many pull-ups. So you get a little crick going, and you feel it. I don't know if that's happened to any of you guys, but so that's just a couple of ideas there. So your pull-up is usually, even on your first one, it's either there or it's not. You know what I mean? Nobody really gets to hear, and I mean, it happens every now and then, but you don't want to spend too much time grinding out that last little bit. Usually the juice just ain't worth the squeeze when it comes to your joint health there. So that's why, like, if you're close, jump up to the top and work those slow negatives. Work that same pattern downwards as opposed to upwards. Okay, so again, if a pull-up is appropriate here for you, let's do a set of like 1 to 3. And what I really want you to think about is getting that scat pull-up idea nice and quick and ride that momentum of that scat pull all the way up to the top. Now, you have the choice here if you want to do multiple reps. Sometimes I'll loosen up and I'll tighten back up. Sometimes I'll stay tight and pull. Does that make sense? So, if a pull-up is appropriate for you, 1 to 3 or 4 reps, go for it. Otherwise, what I want you guys to practice is getting better acquainted with your last 2 fingers here by doing pointer holds. See that? Thumb and your forefinger and your index finger are off. Okay? So let's take just a minute there. Either practice your full pull-up or your pointer hold, or both.
Or no fingers.
Or no fingers. Just
Do the rally thing. Do the body shooting thing.
yeah. And then we'll take a little minute to stretch out a little bit, and then we'll move on. Okay?
No, I have tried one time.
Still got it. Again, same thing, guys. You can do an assisted pull-up.
Can you do that? Can you set it there?
Here, Matt. That's good. That's a good pull there. This is more of the idea of becoming the chef in your own kitchen. The ingredients are there. It's just practicing cooking, so to speak. So one other kind of whole another set of techniques involves how you're generating tension. There you go. So close. Involves generating tension from the feet up.
Okay.
So that's why I said, like, you can kind of experiment with like foot position, but
For a yoga block?
but something that you can do is like, I mean, all this stuff that we've been doing with, like, the squeeze, sensation, and how can I be able to? So like doing like your scapular work while squeezing a block. So I'm generating tension now from a leverage point below my belly button, and this kind of helps solidify the hollow body technique. Because a lot of times with hollow body, we're just like, oh, we just throw our legs forward. But remember what we did out in the parking lot yesterday? Remember that? Finding the difference between your quad and your psoas, your quads and your abs. This will help. Adding a squeeze there between the knees. Also adding a squeeze here between the feet. And so experimenting with internal rotation of the hips I'm exaggerating a little bit. See how my toes are pigeon toeing in versus, this is weird, versus going out. So internal versus external hip rotation can go a long way into solidifying this core engagement that will help you engage your lats and engage your back much more effectively. So that's a little bit of a rabbit hole, and honestly it's just stuff that you just experiment with. You just take the time, again, over the course of weeks and months, and you just experiment with all these little things until you think that you're on the right path. When you start to feel your abs better, you start to feel your obliques better, you start to feel your lats better. So it's just more time. Yep. But if nothing else, if you just want simple homework, come to class a little early. Not too early.
I mean, I'll put you somewhere.
Yeah, and just hop up on the bar. Because look, I don't know, we haven't swung from trees in a long time, so it just takes a little practice to condition the hands. That's another thing. I'll be honest. You kind of got to be okay with having some rough, tough hands. So you got to build up some callus. You got to build up some of that tendon strength. You got to build up some of that strength and some of that mobility through the elbow. You know, because we're on these all day, every day. So popping up is just, you know, it's something completely new. So it just takes some time to acclimate. But like I said, I think the strength is there. The muscle is there. It's just a matter of practicing and committing to the process. Yep. And honestly, that scat pull work. If you can bust out, like, honestly, what I recommend, like, if and when you can, to like warm up for like any sort of upper body workout. How'd you do a bunch of these, right? Like sets of 20? Just pop up and be strict, but go for a pump. Like 20, 30 reps.
Helps your shoulders feel a lot better too. Like my right shoulder started to bother me, stress was getting to me, and I was getting like this. So I sent him a text. He sends back, "Do scat pull, stretch. Well, let's strengthen."
Yeah, and you're strengthening in a stretch.
Right.
Yeah, again, that's like it's all that super muscle. It's a push and a pull at the same time. So from here, we're gonna do like one other, I think, nifty pull variation, and that will kind of be the bulk of kind of what I had in store for you today. Does anybody have any questions on any other pull-up stuff? Anything at all? Okay, cool. So let's bring this bar down to like hip height, maybe like 9 or 10. Good. So, you guys are probably familiar with the bodyweight row. You know, so you can do bodyweight row on rings. Should we pull this out a little bit? Very good. I think this will be fine. Okay. But, you know, so the bodyweight row is, you know, more of a horizontal row. All this pull-up stuff is all vertical. All right, so it's you know, it's challenging. It's super duper challenging. Now, you can also practice a lot of that stuff in a more horizontal position. So even if you're here, even if you're horizontal, you can still practice contract, relax, contract, relax. Granted, it's at a different angle, but it can still go a long way. For that matter, you can be seated on the ground and still practice all that stuff. You don't have to hop up on a big bar every single time. But the body weight row is a fantastic exercise. There's really, I'm not going to say there's not too much to it, but just kind of judging by what I've seen from all you guys, I'm sure you all, can eat those for breakfast, right? Just keep all those scapular mechanics in mind. So like you can tighten the scaps, pull, loose. So you can kind of have that same rhythm, loose, tight, pull, loose, tight, pull, loose, tight, pull. You can apply that to your body weight rows there as well. But one way to bridge the gap between your horizontal row and your vertical pull-up is to do, I believe it's called a seat row. A seat row. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to start in a body weight row position. You're going to sit your butt down, your shoulders up, and you're going to end up at the top of a pull-up. So that looks like this. I go from horizontal to vertical. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The tricky thing is, everybody wants to keep their butt too far forward. Let your butt sink down and back. Got it?
Yeah.
So you can do that on rings. You can do that here on a bar. Set yourself up and let's practice that. All of a sudden, wham! It's like almost easy.
Yeah.
It's almost easy because you fall into an assisted blackout. So again, for something like, I really like doing these on rings because you have that free motion. You can even, again, in the interest of just playing around with scap position, you can start way internally rotated and really stretch out between the shoulder blades. And then do like a full rotation into this chin up. And again, depending on what you're working on, depending on your strength level, you can hack this a million different ways. You could also try this. Adding a body weight float at the top and at the bottom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why rings and being so close to the ground is so much fun, because you have so many assisted options. You could also just do that one leg. Really working on this. Core on one side, core on the other. That's why I say, like, being okay with spending weeks and months working on a million little nuanced variations of all this stuff. Eventually, for goodness sakes, if you spend 6 months doing all this stuff, one day you're just going to hop up on the bar and you're going to do 4 or 5. Whew. So that is the seat row. And so you can see there's lots of funky variations that you can play with in the seat row. And because you're low to the ground, and because you always have a foot or two to help you, there's lots of assistance variations that you can do. Now, if you are a little bit more comfortable and confident with a full pull-up position, you can do a drill called the lat fly. You may have seen Ben doing these. The lat fly is another super muscle pump-oriented exercise. So you're gonna hop up and you're gonna get into a 90 degree, approximately 90 degree position. A little bit higher, a little bit lower, it's totally fine. But again, you're gonna want kind of a wider position than what you're probably used to for like your scat pulls. And you're going to pull your chest forward, push your chest back, all while maintaining this plane. So half pull, push and pull. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So it's kind of hard to do that assisted. You can kind of try it out, but your seat row in that case is probably going to be your best bet. But if you want to try it out with your feet flat, actually it's best to do it on a stable bar. Man, this might be too low. Maybe, but it's the same idea. It's a little tricky. This is a little bit higher. That would be the idea. But all we're doing is we're seeing how far you can push yourself back. You see how I kind of have like a little rebound effect? Because if you try to be too slow, you're just gonna like fall. And then I'm just kind of pulling myself forward into a big stretch. So the magic is the time under tension in between. It's a very rhythmical, cyclical movement. So, you know, one man's opinion, that's kind of like what the butterfly or the kipping pull-up should probably be. If you wanted to train time under tension, something cyclical, that's a fantastic drill. So, we practiced the seat row, right? Yeah, okay. So, for the last few minutes here, if you want to practice the seat row with some of those raises, some of those floats, by all means go for it. If you want to practice the lat fly, either up on the bar, or we'll crank this up a couple notches. Again, on a straight bar there, with your feet down, give it a shot. Anything else you want to practice, we're just going to wrap up here for about 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to move on off of bar work. Sounds good? So if there's anything you want to ask about or practice, just holler. Kind of like this,
Yeah.
kind of like with that arch low back. That on the one hand is kind of a good effective way to get into your lats, but it's also robbing you of your last foot of range of motion.
It feels it.
Yeah, because you kind of tap out here. So what I'm going to recommend that you do is just get real tight on your hollow body position. Your legs forward, legs squeeze. Because right now, you're probably getting a lot of your umph from here.
Yeah.
I need you to get your umph
Yep.
from here.
Okay.
That's okay, I'm nice and loose.
Something else you can do is, like we were talking about tension, and here, you can also go here, right? So you can. There you go.
So really pull the chest forward, boom, and then push it back. Yep, precisely. Yep. Yep.
Feels good.
Yeah. So you can think about really squeezing your shoulders on the way back and really pushing them on the way forward.
Nice.
But maintain that bend.
Oh.
Yes, 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 yes. There you go. There, yep. Good.
Yeah, my shoulders are totally fired up.
Great, great, great. Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be a good one.
There are many other slices to enjoy on the way. So again, I'm sure Ben also has you guys do lots of hanging knee raises, hanging leg raises,
I haven't done as many of those.
Well,
I'm still writing new programming for this new spot, man.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, you know, anything that just kind of helps you get comfortable and confident up on the bar, having fun, exploring stuff. So something that I told Josh that I think especially a lot of guys seem to struggle with is on the way up, they'll start to really expand back, really arch their back. And honestly, it's not necessarily bad because it can really help you get in touch with like your lower lats. The only problem is you kind of tap out here. Unless and until you kick that arch more into a hollow body position. That's why the gymnast, that's the gymnast move. Because this is what's going to get you over the bar. So it's just a difference in terms of like lines of intention. Now again, a lot of bodybuilders, I think one of the most iconic, Ben, you probably know this photo. The photo of Franco Columbu doing those big pull-ups like on Venice Beach. It's like my favorite bodybuilder. Is he super short like me? But there's this iconic black and white photo, and he's just massive, and he's doing these. That's how he's doing his pull-ups. He's basically got like this probably frog or cross position here, and he's just banging them out like that. So almost kind of getting into like a front lever. That can be a good assistance exercise, just to really get into those low lats. But for a full strength-oriented performance of a pull-up, just something you want to be cognizant of.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, front lever stuff. How I was demonstrating there, like at the bottom of the seat row. Tucks. Those are fantastic. Those are super fantastic. So again, we can take that same principle of holding isometrics at the end range of motion, and we can do that horizontally as well. Woo! Cool, guys. So lots of fun stuff for you there to practice. And the cool thing is that with time, you'll start to find all the little variations and all the little cues that work for you. They kind of show you're heading in the right direction. And you start to just build these skills just a little bit at a time. And I think bar work is very unique because it's obviously your body weight and you're off your feet. And I just think that it's just an amazing thing for anybody from any walk of life, no matter what your fitness goal is, to have a practice of bar work, ring work, hanging work in your training. It's phenomenal for your total body strength. It's phenomenal for shoulder health, and it feels good and it's fun. So that's good enough for me. All right, guys. So with that, let's take a quick little break.
Yeah.
Get some water, hit the bathroom if you need to, and then we're kind of just gonna wrap up with a few more things from here.
Then I'm in first. Then we'll get it set up the rest of the way. So this one involves baby get-ups, curls, of course, and sled rows, or sled backwards drag. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same style as before. 2 groups running this way. We will demo a little bit of the sled stuff. Doesn't take much. You guys already know how to do curls, so I'm not too worried about that. You could also just do kettlebell curls, of course. Those are awesome. Extra points if you do them here, because those are awesome, right? You want to show baby get-ups quick?
Yeah.
Most of them have done them before.
Yeah, so obviously we'll have some mats set up there. So baby get up, the only rule is feet together, floor is lava for the feet. So feet do not touch.
Otherwise, it's the same roll up as what you normally do in a Turkish get-up. Elbow up to hand. Really keep those knees up close to you. Back and down. Switch. Because obviously we're going to keep these unweighted. We're just going to alternate sides. So really try to get a good tall position here. And we're just going to flow with it. Roll to left cheek. Roll diagonal to the other cheek. Right? You guys know the get up. It ain't a crunch. It's a side pull. It's a side roll. So that's the baby get up. And we'll just keep that unweighted. Roll left, roll right. Keep those feet high.
How many?
Let's just say we'll go for time. I think when we're dragging, when we're rowing, the timeline is probably going to be a little bit longer than it was for the push. So we're just going to do the same idea. I go, you go, down the line. So that will kind of be timed by whomever is pulling.
So you do these until the line shifts.
Yeah.
Same with the curls.
So it'll be resting. So person 1 rests. Person 2 baby get up. Person 3 bicep curls. Person 4 is the pacemaker. Person 4 is going down and back with the row. When person 4 gets back, the line shifts.
Cool. Let's go look at the row quick. We all listen. Step, step, row. Okay. All the way down one arm, all the way back with the other arm. Turn this thing around, by the way. It's a little bit easier. Go here. Okay? Cool. The other option, you want to show it? Is drag. Yeah. Less demanding than the first one. That's a very different way. Right? Baby go. And you can, of course, change weights. Thing we're doing, right?
Yeah, this is it.
That's it. So send it.
Yeah, so whatever you guys want to do for curls, if you want to grab some dumbbells, maybe if that's appropriate for being out here.
Yeah, whatever.
Or, hey, you know, if you really want to pump it up, grab a hold of the torque stick. You can do torque stick curls.
Of course
Keep it close together. Let's do them. Let's pump up those arms.
All right, let's do it.
that. The bells. Woo! Here we go. again. Jesus. You're good right there. You're good. Turn it around. Nothing like throwing an extra 200 pop on there. Here we go. Yeah. Watch behind it. One more good pull. Last thing. Yeah.
It's the moving it around part that's hard.
Here we go. Yeah, nice work, y'all. Nice work. Man, I got an adrenaline kick going. That was fun. Nice work, y'all.
She
got your curls
crazy.
in.
It was fun.
I got my workout in. I got my curls, little sled ride.
Only the one side though.
I switched partway
you
through.
did?
I had to, yeah.
Work.
Otherwise it'd be uneven. Excellent work, everybody. How you feel?
Strong.
Knowledgeable.
And knowledgeable.
Strong, knowledgeable things. Cool. Cool, cool. I'm sure Zach will have a few closing words, but I want to say this is our first seminar. It won't be our last. So we'll continue to do things like this, where we can kind of come together around these different pieces. As you have different ideas around something you'd like to learn, I mean, as you can see, each one of these topics we could have spent a weekend on. Each one of these movements we could have spent a whole weekend on. So there's a lot more to this, a lot more nuance. Okay? So keep that all in mind. It's been on my mind for a long time. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. So.
Thank you for having us, Ben.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, big ups for Ben, for all of his work, for the spot, for the community, for the hospitality, for the snacks and beverages, and obviously that means the cookies and the coffee.
Yeah.
And so give our best to Kat and Duck Duck as well.
Will do.
And give it up for Chris behind the camera.
Hey.
The hardest working man in the gym.
That's right.
Hey man, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, guys, like I said before, it's a real honor and a real thrill for me to be able to travel and come into a community of people who I've never seen before, never met before, including the guy who invited me.
Yeah.
Our
right.
first time meeting in person was at the airport.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, this is really special. Obviously, in the times and days we're in, I realize that it's not always as simple and easy to put on stuff like this, both from your perspective as a gym owner and you guys as a community. But I think that also just goes to show as a testament to the type of community that you've built, which is one based on trust, transparency. What was the other thing that you said?
There's empathy,
Empathy,
resilience,
and
of course the community.
in the community. And yeah, I think it's really special what you guys got going on here, especially considering that half of y'all can walk to this place. I think that's very, very special. Something that I'm very, very envious of. The fact that you guys have a community that you can be a part of that supports your strength, that supports your journey, that supports your health. And you guys are very, very lucky to have a guy like Ben, a leader like Ben, who provides the place and the accountability and the knowledge. So just like I mentioned on yesterday, my intention was to learn as much as I teach. And I certainly did. So I have each and every one of y'all to thank for that, and Ben, you especially. So I just want to say that, hey, you know, this is my gig, right? So I've seen a lot of people move. I've had the pleasure of coaching lots of people from all walks of life, all skill levels, and you guys are some of the strongest athletes I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. You guys are all phenomenal athletes in your own right. And I know a lot of you have come a long way. I know a lot of you guys have a long way to go. But you should all be very proud of the work that you've been putting in, the consistency, and I really tip my hat to the level of seriousness that you all seem to bring to training. That is such a breath of fresh air to be around people in that same mindset. So I just want to say how much I appreciate y'all's hospitality, and with that, I hope to see you guys again real soon. So thanks for a great weekend.
Thanks for putting so much into it, man. I mean, he talked the whole time. I just ran around and helped out with stuff. So let's hear it once for Zach. It's what he does as a living, but
Thank you.
he's also one of the absolute best at it, which is why he's my coach too. It's not just because he's awesome. He's really, really good at it. So I'm sure he won't mind if you reach out to him with questions directly and stuff. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. You'll often get a little sneak preview of what I'm going to put in class that week, because he does stuff and I'm like, that's a great idea. And then I put it in class. So yeah, any questions, anything at the end here? Y'all just tired? Yeah, we're not going to do the barbecue thing today. We're gonna call it good. We'll do that another time. We'll plan that another time. It's a long weekend. Everyone's a little bit tired, and this way you still got a Sunday afternoon to do something here. So thank you all.
Hey, I'm Josh. I'm participating the weekend here with the great coach Zach Henderson and the other great coach Ben Swartz. We're here at Hardshell Fitness. We had a great weekend. I recommend both coaches a lot. I know I personally came with some expectations of learning how to coach myself, and we learned about the Zach Henderson super muscle. So how to stay nice and tight and zip up. And I recommend it for anybody that is just starting out, or even someone like me who's been around the block a few times and working for a few years. So I hope to see you guys in the future.